Here is the idea that ties this whole run together. Intervals are not a side topic you learn once and then leave behind. They are the bricks. Every chord and every scale you will ever meet is just intervals, stacked in a particular order. A chord is a small pile of intervals. A scale is a longer pattern of them. Up to now you have been measuring distances one pair of notes at a time, a third here, a fifth there, the gap between two pitches. That was the groundwork. Now watch what those distances actually build. Once you see that chords and scales are nothing but intervals in disguise, you stop memorizing shapes one by one and start reading the single plan they are all made from. You learn the distances, and the whole keyboard opens up, because the same few gaps, rearranged, are behind everything on it. So let me show you, with sound, exactly how the same handful of distances builds both chords and scales. Start with chords. A chord begins by stacking thirds. A third is just an interval, the gap of 3 or 4 semitones that you already know how to count. Take C as the root, the note the chord is named after and built up from. Now put 2 thirds on top of it. Go up a third to E, which is 4 semitones, a major third. Then from that E go up another third to G, 3 more semitones, a minor third this time. 3 notes, C, E and G. That particular spacing, a major third on the bottom and a minor third stacked above it, is a major triad, the most common chord in all of Western music. Listen to it. C, E, G, bright and settled, the most resolved sound you can play. Notice exactly what you did there. You did not memorize 3 random notes and hope they fit. You stacked 2 intervals, for semitones then 3, and the chord simply fell out of the pattern. Change those intervals and you change the chord, which is the next thing I want to show you. Now keep the very same root and just swap the order of those 2 bricks. Instead of the major third on the bottom, put the minor third there this time. From C, go up 3 semitones to E flat, a minor third. Then from that E flat, go up 4 semitones to G, a major third. Same 2 intervals, a major third and a minor third, simply in the opposite order, and you get a minor triad. Listen. C, E flat, G, darker, heavier, more serious than the major chord, the sound of so much sad and tender music. Hear them back to back, the major triad, then the minor triad. The only thing that moved between them was one single note, the middle one, shifted down by 1 semitone, from E to E flat. 1 semitone. Yet the whole mood flipped from bright to dark. 2 bricks, the same 2 thirds, just in a different order, give you 2 completely different feelings. That tells you the middle note is doing something special, so let me pull the chord apart and show you which interval does which job. So which interval is doing what inside the chord? There are 2 jobs going on, handled by 2 different notes. The outer interval, the perfect fifth from the root up to the top note, frames the chord and holds it steady. Here just the frame on its own, C and G with nothing in between, open and stable. It sounds solid and grounded, but notice it has no mood yet. It is neither happy nor sad, just a strong, hollow shell. Now drop the middle note in. The third, sitting inside that frame, is the note that colors the chord major or minor. Put a major third in there, for semitones up from the root, and it is bright. Swap it for a minor third, 3 semitones up, and it is dark. The outer frame, the perfect fifth, never changed across those 2. Only the inner third moved, by a single semitone, and the color changed with it. So remember the division of labor, the fifth is the skeleton that holds the chord up, and the third is the feeling that lives inside it. That same logic, intervals doing specific jobs, scales up to the bigger structures too. Scales work in the exact same way, just spread over more notes. A scale is a fixed pattern of intervals, a recipe of whole steps and half steps that you follow up from a starting note. The major scale, the one behind most of the music you know, is this: tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. A tone is a whole step, which is 2 semitones. A semitone is a half step, just 1. Hold that recipe in your head, because it never changes. Now walk that pattern up from C and listen. C, then a tone up to D, a tone up to E, a semitone up to F, a tone to G, a tone to A tone to B, and a final semitone back up to C, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and home to C. Those 7 steps are exactly the recipe, no more and no less, and they give you the major scale you have heard 10,000 times without knowing its name. Once again, you did not learn 7 separate notes by heart. You followed one pattern of distances, starting from one note. And because it is a pattern of distances, you can pick it up and carry it anywhere. And that is the real power, because a scale is a pattern of intervals and not a fixed set of keys. The pattern moves. Keep the recipe exactly the same, tone tone semitone tone 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 semitone, but start it somewhere new. Start on G this time instead of C, and follow the very same steps. As you do, the shape forces exactly one note up to keep the pattern true. The F becomes F sharp, so that the gaps still come out as tone tone semitone tone 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 semitone. Listen. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, climbing home to the octave. It sounds like the same kind of scale as C major, bright and resolved, because it is the same recipe, just sitting on a new starting note. That single black key, the F sharp, is not a special exception to memorize. It is simply what the pattern demands when you start from G. The same recipe, a brand new starting note, and you are now playing in a different key. That, in one word, is what transposing means. You are not relearning anything from scratch. You are picking up one pattern of intervals and moving it to a new home on the keyboard. Put it all together and the payoff is large. Learn intervals, really learn them, and 3 things you might have thought of as completely separate turn out to be the same single skill. You can transpose a melody, because a melody is just a chain of intervals, and a chain of intervals can be lifted to start on any note you like, keeping its shape. You can build any chord, because a chord is a stack of thirds, and you already know how to count and stack thirds. And you can spell any scale, because a scale is a pattern of steps, and you already know how to follow a pattern of steps from a starting note. Take a short tune, move it to a new key, then harmonize it with the triads drawn from the scale, and every single thing happening on the keyboard, the melody, the key change, the chords, is the same handful of distances, just arranged differently. There is no separate set of facts for chords, another for scales, and a third for melodies. It is all one toolkit. This is where the whole intervals run finally lands. Everything you have built across these episodes feeds into this one idea. The number that names an interval's rough size. The quality, measured exactly in semitones. The restless tritone sitting dead at the center of the octave. The perfect intervals that have no major or minor form. The compound intervals that reach beyond the octave. The enharmonic spellings, where one sound has 2 names. And naming intervals by ear from the songs they open. Every piece of that points here, intervals build everything. Chords are stacked intervals. Scales are interval patterns. So intervals really are the grammar of music, the quiet set of rules sitting underneath every note, every chord, and every melody you will ever play. And those scale patterns we just walked are exactly where we go next. Scales are the whole subject of the next run, every shape, every mood, every key. You already have the one tool you need to build every single one of them. That tool is intervals.